The episode begins with Pastry hearing from his father that a war has started between the Huberg family and their neighbor, Ludoraut. Then, the scene shifts to the Ludoraut war camp. A knight tells the leader of Ludoraut that they haven't received any help from the Duke in the royal capital for Huberg. Ludoraut says he expected this because as soon as Huberg heard the false rumor of a big army, they probably asked for help from Kattlechick. But in reality, nothing has happened there, and it's possible the Duke refused to help, or Huberg withdrew their request for aid. When Huberg realizes they only have 10,000 soldiers, they will likely take charge to save face and won't want too much help from the Duke. Ludoraut drinks water and tells Huberg to watch closely because he plans to use their long-standing grudge to destroy them completely. Then, one of the guards reports that the Huberg daughter and her fiancé are in Margrave. Ludoraut gives a sinister smile and asks if it's the Duke's grandson. Next, we see Pastry cleaning his kitchen, and Licorice joins him there. She notices that Pastry seems lost in thought, and he assures her it's nothing important. Licorice wonders if he's thinking about the war. She mentions that in her homeland, there's news of a war starting with their neighbor, and she thinks wars are foolish. Instead of fighting, she believes people should focus on making yummy sweets. Just like Pastry loves making them, they could get lost in the joy of creating delicious desserts and then enjoy them with a smile. This way, everyone in the world can be happy. Pastry agrees, saying that sweets have the power to make everyone happy, and there's something sweet behind every smile. Licorice agrees with him. Pastry then mentions that a merchant will deliver some goats today, and he's excited about making cheesecakes from goat's milk because they're rich and delicious. Licorice expresses her interest in trying those cheesecakes. The scene shifts, and Pastry is shocked to find out that someone has swiped his goats. The merchant, looking concerned, explains that just as he was about to deliver the goats to Pastry, another noble stepped in and bought them. Pastry expresses his frustration, and Sheet says that pressuring someone to sell something is essentially like stealing. The merchant tries to defend himself by saying that he tried to explain to the buyers that the goats were already spoken for, but they insisted that their situation was dire and threatened to harm him if he didn't hand over the goats. Pastry asks the merchant to reveal the identity of the person who bought his goats. The merchant reluctantly discloses that the goats were sold to Baron Lunsvich. Pastry reflects on how notorious Baron Lunsvich is for targeting newer noble families, making them his victims. Sheep suggests that if they had a strong family connection with a powerful house, they could file a complaint against the Baron. However, their engagement with House Huber hasn't been officially confirmed yet, making it tricky to seek their help. Casserole speculates that their current predicament might be a result of the ongoing conflict between House Huber and Ludoraut. Complaining about the ripples caused by this war won't likely earn them much sympathy. He mentions that they only learned about the war 3 days ago and can't believe it's already affecting them. Sheep acknowledges that it must be quite a significant conflict since the repercussions are felt even in distant regions due to their interconnected trade networks. Pastry's frustration mounts, and he vehemently declares that anyone who disrupts his enjoyment will face severe consequences. Casserole urges him to calm down, but Pastry insists he can't remain calm and contemplates marching up to confront the seemingly troublesome Baron Lunsvich. Casserole intervenes, advising Pastry to control his anger and pointing out that they are in the midst of a war where every estate requires essential supplies. Given Baron Lunsvich's proximity to the front lines, it's only natural that he urgently needs food. Casserole also reassures Pastry that the Baron legitimately purchased the goats rather than stealing them. Sheet then brings up the point that even if Pastry were to try and reclaim the goats, the Baron would likely use the war as an excuse to dismiss him. Casserole adds that Pastry needs to face the reality of the situation. Pastry, feeling the loss of his goats deeply, expresses his frustration. Casserole tries to console him, mentioning that once the war is over, Pastry will have a chance to negotiate and get what he needs. Pastry suddenly remembers that Licorice wanted to try cheesecake. This triggers a thought in him, and he wonders aloud why people have to go to war. Sheet, seemingly with a plan in mind, hints that he might have an idea to help Pastry obtain all the supplies he desires, even during a war. Pastry quickly catches on and realizes that Sheet is suggesting they join the war as reinforcements, which would give them priority access to provisions. Sheet points out that Baron Lunsvich is known for being miserly and probably won't provide much aid. Joining the reinforcements would give them an advantage. Casserole adds that they also have a good reason to side with Huberg, given that Pastry is engaged to Licorice, and it's a way to show support for her family. Pastry declares with determination that he will reclaim those goats as his own. The scene then shows Pastry, Casserole, Niccolo, and Glassage as they join the reinforcement party, accompanied by 8-foot soldiers recruited from their village. Mark expresses his desire to join them as well, but Lummy advises against it, thinking Mark might become a burden. Quattro steps in and emphasizes the importance of their role in protecting the estate while their lord is away. Agnes is surprised at how quickly they prepared for the journey, to which Sheet mentions that Casserole is always ready for emergencies. Agnes reassures Licorice not to worry. Pastry's thoughts reveal his motivation. He's doing all of this for the sake of sweets. Once he gets his goats back, he plans to create a plethora of delicious desserts for Licorice. The scene shifts to Squall gazing at a picture of Petra and admiring her charm. Petra playfully chides Squall for being so engrossed in a picture when she's right there. Squall responds by saying that Petra's real charm is so overwhelming that he needs to mentally prepare himself before looking at her. Hubrek arrives, and he appreciates Squall's cover story, to which Squall responds sincerely. Petra intervenes, urging her father to stop teasing Squall. Their butler arrives and delivers crucial news. Luderout's main force, numbering 10,000, is on the march. Hubrek speculates that the earlier report of 30,000 soldiers must have been a falsehood. He believes he can handle the situation with his own forces and proposes putting Squall on the front-line defense. Petra objects, but Hubrek is confident in his decision. Squall expresses his gratitude to Hubrek for granting him his first campaign and assures Petra not to worry. Meanwhile, a soldier informs Luderout that part of their advanced unit has reached the border. Another soldier reports that their forces are showing signs of fatigue, and Hubrek's army is growing, which could be a disadvantage. Luderout reveals his true goal, to create a rift between Hubrek and Keldek. He explains that Keldek's heir is stationed at House Hubrek, and Hubrek will likely want to grant him his first campaign since he has never been in battle. Luderout also mentioned that Hubrek can endanger the Duke's son, but if Hubrek expects this as an easy battle, he'll see it as the perfect opportunity for a first deployment. If Squall wins, Luderout will also gain the Duke's gratitude. Luderout reveals his cunning plan. He intends to draw Squall into a vulnerable position where they can easily defeat him. This, in turn, will infuriate Keldek, prompting him to sever ties with Hubrek. The isolation of Hubrek will make him susceptible to an attack while he's still reeling from this political maneuver. The scene then shifts to Squall, near the border of the Margravate of Huberek. He didn't anticipate his first deployment happening so suddenly. As he reflects on this, he realizes that his primary goal is to protect Petra. Unbeknownst to Squall, some of Luderout's soldiers are covertly observing him and his forces. The story then takes us back a day when Pastry and Casserole visit House Huberek to offer their assistance. Huberek thanked them for their aid, but Pastry mentioned that they are doing this for Goat. However, Casserole shut him. Casserole becomes curious about the ongoing battle's progress, and Huberek informs him that things are going well. He also seeks Casserole's opinion regarding their strategy, particularly a strike plan from their frontline fortress. Casserole studies the enemy's placement on the map, and while everything may seem fine at first glance, he senses that something is amiss. Pastry senses that his father's warrior instincts might be at play here. Casserole, while acknowledging the sensibility of the formation, agrees that something feels off. Pastry suggests that the formation seems overly solid, like the defensive arrangement of an army preparing for an attack from them, even though they are the ones invading. This leaves them puzzled about the enemy's intentions. Casserole decides to put himself in the enemy's shoes and guides Huberek to where he would attack if he were the enemy commander. Huberek realizes that this is the very place where Squall's unit is headed, and he had thought it would be a good opportunity for Squall's first deployment. Casserole points out that Squall lacks experience and would not fare well as the target of an ambush. They decide to come to his aid. Huberek plans to leave a company in their capable hands, and Pastry and Casserole set off to rescue Squall. Meanwhile, Squall and his soldiers receive information about the enemy in the distance and head into battle. However, they are unable to locate the enemy ahead and are suddenly attacked from behind. The enemy forces unleash a devastating attack on Squall's men. Squall, struggling to stay calm, is asked for orders by his soldiers. He instructs them to retreat into the forest since they are at a disadvantage. Just when they think they might escape, another enemy unit appears from the front, and Squall realizes they are trapped. While Casserole and the rest of the group are on their way to rescue Squall, Glassage notices that Huberek's company is running behind schedule. Casserole then entrusts Huberek's company to Niccolo and proceeds ahead with Pastry and Glassage. Squall is still locked in a battle with the enemy and decides to order his forces to fall back. However, as they try to retreat, they realize they are encircled by the enemy, feeling trapped. Squall then suggests that they carve a path through the enemy ranks, but his soldiers express concern about their limited numbers. Suddenly, arrows rain down on the enemy soldiers, causing them to fall one by one. Squall is bewildered by this unexpected help, and it turns out to be Glassage providing cover with his arrows. Casserole then arrives, and together they start thinning out the enemy forces. Squall wonders why they are there, and Pastry explains that they've come to lend a hand and ensure Squall's safety during his first deployment. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then support us by subscribing to our channel.